Hello, everyone. This is Tom Fox back for another episode of the Texas Hill Country Artist Podcast. Today, I'm thrilled to have with me Laura Williams. Laura, first of all, welcome and thank you so much for taking the time to visit with me today.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here.
So, Laura, I always like to start by asking, did you know from the time you were a little girl you wanted to be an artist? Was there some spark, some teacher, some event, some aunt? When did you start?
I realized I loved art when I was about 8 years old. My father was artistic and he was taking oil painting lessons in the town of Katy, where I grew up, from a woman. And he invited me to go along with him. And so I started attending art class with my dad and we painted together. Um,
You told us you lived in Katy. Katy is very different now from the town you grew up in.
Absolutely.
Tell me a little bit about growing up in Katy, I would assume in the '60s.
Yes, that's correct. We moved to Katy when I was 4 in '61, I believe. So, my dad was recruited. He was a dentist, and the town needed a dentist. It was a small town of maybe 1,000 people then, and mostly rice farming. And so the medical doctor, Dr. Bing, recruited my dad to become the town dentist, which he accepted. Grew up there. I graduated from Katy High School when it was a 2A high school. My graduating class was 135 people, and it was the only high school in Katy. And now I think they're up to 9 high schools and 80,000, 90,000 students. Quite different.
So you took this class with your dad when you were 8. Can you give sort of the progression of your, artistic development from there till you became an adult?
Sure. I took art when I was in junior high we had an art teacher in junior high school. So I took a class then. Oh, and I forgot. So my mother, we my siblings and I jokingly refer to our mom as the Beaux Arts and Crafts mom. She would enroll us in these classes in Houston at a place called the Talent Tree. And that was back in the days of decoupage box purses and paper mache. And so we did arts and crafts a lot. And then I took junior high art. Junior year in high school, I was in a chemistry class, and this was pretty pivotal actually for me. It's the first week of school. My lab partner dumped the whole rack of test tubes in my lap. They had to throw me in the safety shower. My mom had to bring new clothes up for me to school. And that night at dinner, I remember my dad suggesting to me, Laura, have you thought about taking art instead of chemistry? And he talked with me about it, and we decided that art class would probably be a better fit, that I was probably not going to become a scientist. Yeah, so that kind of changed my trajectory. And then went to college, majored in studio art at a small university in Georgetown, Texas, Southwestern University, and was there 2 years and then thought, how am I going to support myself as a studio artist? Because again, the world was different back then. We didn't have the internet, and I would probably have to paint, I don't know, all night and be a waitress all day or something to support myself as an artist. So I looked into what could I get a Bachelor of Fine Arts degree in art with a more stable career with a steady paycheck. And so I ended up transferring to Texas Tech because it was one of the few schools that offered an interior design degree in the art department. I ended up in Lubbock at Texas Tech and got my BFA, went to work in interior design. So, yeah,
What was Texas Tech like when you were there?
it was, I loved it. I didn't know anyone when I went. I just went basically cold turkey, took a potluck roommate in one of the dorms. But the people, it's that West Texas hospitality that you hear of quite often. And just everyone was kind and nice, and I really flourished there. It was a great place. I met my husband there. It was flat and dry, and far away. So
Not like Katy. So tell us, graduate from college, and, what did you do then?
so I went to work for mainly architectural firms. I wanted to be in commercial design, and I should say this, my husband got a job with Shell Oil Company, so he made a lot more money than I ever did, and so we would go wherever his job let us. So we were transferred probably about every 3 to 4 years with Shell between New Orleans, Houston, California, those kinds of places. And so I would um, get a new job wherever we landed. And I worked mainly for architectural firms. The Mathis Group was one, ISD Incorporated was another. And we did lots of law firms, hospitals, banks, even a ship one time. We were the designers of an interior for a seismographic research vessel. So
Did you later move into teaching?
I did.
Tell us about that.
So I was in Houston working for ISD Incorporated at the time and had a friend at the firm who taught at the University of Houston. And he was an adjunct professor, taught design, and asked me one day, "Have you ever thought about teaching?" And I said, in college, that was the one thing I knew I didn't want to do. And he said, "I think that you would make a great teacher, and I am looking for someone to take my place." So long story short, I ended up taking his job, taught a senior level design class at University of Houston, was my first teaching experience, and pretty much students ate my lunch the first year or 2, but I learned on the job just how to manage students, how to manage unhappy students that don't like the grades you give them. And so after that, we were transferred again to California. I taught at a community college in California, and then one of my son's teachers asked if I would be interested in volunteering to teach art in the elementary school. So I did that as a volunteer. They didn't have art teachers. And so I did that, loved that. Then we moved to Louisiana, looked around again for some kind of teaching thing because I realized that I really did love teaching. And I went from the students eating my lunch to being much better at managing and teaching. And so anyway, I in Louisiana, I worked for the St. Tammany Parish School Board, and it was under a federal grant program. We'd go into any school because I taught all levels. But we'd go into a school, we'd meet with the teachers, like 5 teachers, decide on a curriculum, and then I would administer the program, but also teach the teachers to teach what I was teaching so that it's a play it forward kind of thing. I did that. Then we moved back to Texas, to Houston. And I discovered in Texas I needed a teaching certification to teach in the public system. So I went back to school, got alternate certified, started teaching. So
How long did you teach?
I taught 15 years in the Katy School District, which is where we lived at the time.
And what brought you to the Hill Country?
My husband retired, I retired, and my brother has a place in the Hill Country in Hunt and has had it for about 12 years. So we've come out here a lot as a family and just fell in love with this area, as everyone does. I guess it was about in 2020 during COVID. We lived in Austin in a condominium right across the street from the Bob Bullock Museum and UT. We got a little cabin fever during COVID and realized that we both wanted green space and that the city life wasn't for us. So it was like green acres, here we come. So,
Texas.
yeah. So we bought some land and it's taken us a bit to get here, but we're officially here and working on building a house right now.
So let's turn to your art.
Okay.
When would you say you began your career as a professional artist?
Well, in a way, I feel like I've always been a professional artist, but in the different facets of art as an architectural designer, then as a teacher. But now I'm trying my best to be a landscape painter. And I've been doing that. I started working on my personal art probably about 15 years ago as I was teaching. Started to paint, which was a good way to teach as well, because for the students to see you creating and struggling as an artist and trying to figure out my voice, what is my style, what do I love to paint, those kinds of things. So,
What would you say your style is, or what do you love to paint?
I have a realism problem, I call it. I I tend to be highly detailed. I would like to paint more loose and free because I'm really drawn towards more contemporary artists, uh, as most artists do. I think you struggle and you're just trying to find, "What do I feel satisfied with?" And you have paintings that you start working on, you paint, and a lot of times artists will say that it painted itself. And that's the kind of thing where you realize when that happens, it's okay, this I need to take note. This is probably going to lead me to a better analyzation of what is my style. So,
This is really interesting. You're the first person that's really talked to us about this. Are you just painting what's inside you, or is what's inside you just coming out on the canvas?
that's a hard question, Tom, because I don't start painting what's inside me. There are artists who do just paint from their imagination and from things that they've envisioned. I need a spring point, and my spring point that I'm always attracted to is nature and trees, rocks, little hidden spaces within the landscape. Those are things that really draw me in. I've done a lot of plein air painting, which uh, is that's a hard sport. It is a sport, but it's a great spring point, the plein air work, then to do either further studies on what you were painting outside or to develop. But then there does come a point, in answer to your question, there does come a point where you're not dependent upon a photograph from that place or what that place exactly looked like because you as an artist then start to make decisions about, is that the best composition in this space that I'm working in? What leads the viewer's eye in? Does it get trapped? What's my focal point? So there's a lot of questioning and contemplating, analyzing.
If you haven't arrived at a final style, where would you say you are now?
I I define myself now because I have a website and people ask you. So I define myself now as an impressionistic slash realistic artist. I am trying to move away from so much realism and trying to work on brushstrokes and edges of paint and those kinds of things.
Do you have any upcoming shows you could tell us about or anything along those lines?
Sure. Right now, I have a show with 6 other fabulous women called The Magnificent Seven at Kerrville Arts and Cultural Center. I think it runs through this Saturday. And then also this weekend, I'm teaching a plein air workshop in Centerville, Texas. I haven't ever done that before, so that'll be new and exciting for me, and hopefully the students or the participants will feel the same way, excited to be there.
How's been the reception that you perceived of the Magnificent Seven?
It's been fabulous, I think. Yeah, we had a reception a couple of weekends ago. It was well attended, and people were very complimentary of the work and the group of artists as we came together. I think the show works nicely because we're all landscape artists, but we're not all the same style.
Right.
And so that's nice to just have some different fluidity to the show.
We have a great poster,
Oh, thank you.
and I can't remember who offered me one. I said, "I'll take it signed."
We need to get that to you.
Yes, so that will be my payment for this podcast series, and then I'm
Can
gonna
do.
frame that.
I can do.
After the Magnificent Seven ends, do you have any upcoming shows, either the rest of 2023 or maybe even into early 2024?
I don't have anything planned as of yet. We are going the Magnificent Seven is going to ride again next year. We'll be back up in action September of 2024. Looking forward to that. Yeah. I've got work in Fredericksburg at the Good Art Company Gallery, which is a great gallery. Love Mary Catherine Feckle, who is the owner, and she has a great collection of different types of artists and styles. Speaking of styles, yeah.
If anyone wanted to take a look at your work or visit your website, where would they go?
Go to laurawilliamsgallery.com. And then, of course, I'm on Instagram and Facebook under the same name, Laura Williams Gallery.
Laura, I wanted to thank you so much for taking the time to visit with me. This has just been a delightful pleasure.
Thank you, Tom. It's been a pleasure as well.